Thank you. And I think this is going to be fun for me and hopefully for you. Fun for me because as an engineer I like talking about things that are not strictly engineering but cross over into behavior and how we live in the city, which is very much related to transport planning, but it's not something we think about or talk about often enough. The philosopher Alan W. Watts said, "This is the real secret of life, to be completely engaged with what you're doing in the here and now. And instead of calling it work, realize it's play." And that kind of sums up what I'm going to talk about now and a little bit about what OpenStreets is. I'm not going to talk in detail about OpenStreets yet. We'll talk about that after our walk. But I'll just say that OpenStreets, as you probably know, is best known for OpenStreets days, when we close a section of street to traffic so that people can play and do whatever they want within legal reason in that space. But it is also work of a fun sort, because it's about more than a festival or a street party. It's about trying to understand the interactions on the street and how the design of the street and the way we use that street affect our ability to enjoy the city as a whole. So it's fundamentally about social interaction and how the design of the space affects that. So in a way, OpenStreets is an experiment. It's a way to see public space in a different way, and in a way, it's research in motion, and that's certainly what we'll be doing tonight when we go outside. We'll be moving, but we'll be hopefully experiencing the street in a slightly different way than the way we might normally. And hopefully as well, this is the beginning of trying to explore what can come out of an OpenStreets day or other activities that we might engage in related to OpenStreets. So it's a process. I think that's the important thing here, is that this is kind of the early stages of trying to explore what it might mean for Belleville, what it might mean even what happens in Belleville, what that means for the rest of Cape Town, and how it adds to the way we can experience as individuals our city. Now, if you drive to work like I do now, unfortunately, I actually prefer public transport, but I have to drive to work. And you probably, if any of you have done that on a regular basis, you will have experienced what I do sometimes, which is you'll be driving along and suddenly you realize you don't know how you got to where you are now. The last few kilometers, you weren't even there, right? You were thinking about something else. You were, I don't know, thinking about something you should have done or something you're planning to do. And it's just kind of a shock that actually you weren't conscious. You were driving on autopilot. And I think we often occupy the city in that same way. We aren't in the here and now, as the philosopher said. We're living in the past, or we're living in the future and not really experiencing it. So I think it's a bit unfortunate, because it means we're not getting the most out of the city in a way. There's lots of other reasons why we could, or ways that we could analyze that, but I'm not a philosopher, so I won't try. But I think the reason I'm talking about this is that we tend to avoid the unpleasantness. So whether you're driving to work or walking down the street, we're using that absence, that lack of being right here, right now, and experiencing it as a way to kind of overcome the fact that it's not actually pleasant. We're not enjoying ourselves. We're not moving from place to place because we actually want to. It's because we have to, and we make the best of it. And now the problem with that is that we're not really perceiving what's actually happening. And this is what I'm hoping we can overcome tonight in a small way. And there's a technique that people use to try and break out of that habitual way of being and way of thinking about things and way of seeing things. And that is to kind of do something you don't normally do, or do it in a way that you don't normally do it. And that's kind of what I'd like us to experience a little bit of tonight. Because habits are a way for us to short-circuit the need to really observe and think. And if we do something unusual, or something that's unusual for us, we can hopefully break that habit, at least temporarily, and try and see things in a different way. So there's all kinds of ways that people can do that. There's actually an app called a dérive app, which is French for to drift. And it removes the purposeful act of walking from one point to another point, and sort of makes your movement in a public space more random. By a group of people might have the app on their cell phone, and they get issued random cards which give them instructions like find a tree and sit under it, or find the nearest lane, go there, sit there for 5 minutes and then move on, or follow somebody wearing a red shirt. And so there's sort of things that are breaking that habit that of how we use the city, so that you get a sort of internal jolt, and you sort of experience something different and hopefully see it in a different way. Now, we're not going to use that app today, although I'd love at some other point to find people who would like to try it in Cape Town. People in Joburg have done it. But what we're going to do on our walk is do 3 things which I hope will help do something similar. And don't worry, it's not too out there, I hope. But hopefully make us a little bit, experience something that's a little bit different. So what we're going to do is we're going to walk, and you're going to follow me, and we're not going to talk, but we're going to try and experience it as best we can by being in the here and now as we do that. And the first stage of the walk, we're going to just focus on what you as an individual are feeling and thinking as you move through the street. So as you cross the street, what are you feeling? You know, as you're navigating the traffic, does it make you anxious? As you walk past a particular building, do you feel more comfortable or less comfortable? What are you feeling internally? So we're going to go through some of the walk where we're doing that. And then we're also going to observe other people. We're going to stand for a while and see what they are doing, how they are experiencing the street, and try and imagine what they are going through. And then the third phase will be to focus more on interactions between people. So why are we doing this? It's partly to let go of those habitual ways of seeing and try and create that kind of artificial context where we can start seeing things differently. Because OpenStreets is about experiencing things in a different way so that we can try and analyze them in a different way ultimately as well. And I think it's important to recognize as well that often, because our observations are based on these habitual ways of thinking, they're often distorted. And that applies to me as a professional transport planner as much as to anyone else. I've been brought up in a particular way to see the city and to analyze the city and to recommend solutions to it. But those are very much based on these kind of habits. So I, as much as anyone else, need to kind of break through that. We're going to go down Durban Road, cross to Criscall Avenue, if you know where that is, which is nearby, and walk up. And part of that, during one part of that, we'll stop and watch people. And I know that sounds a bit creepy, maybe. If you're just going to have to go with it and see what you're comfortable with. But again, what I'm saying is it would be great if you could do something that you feel a little bit uncomfortable with, because that's how we kind of feel things differently and experience things differently and hopefully come to new observations. Now, we're not going to talk, okay, on the walk. So this is where this is a break from our usual talking streets, because I'm wanting us to all experience what we are experiencing as individuals. And it's very tempting when you're going on these walks to sort of break off into couples or little groups and talk about what you're seeing, or maybe talk about something you know you should have spoken to this person about yesterday. But I'd really urge you not to do that, because that takes you away from here again. Okay, so let's go to it. The reason we're going through all of this, it might sound very unrelated to OpenStreets, but, or maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But it's related in the sense that we need to first try and observe it in new ways and talk about it and just dwell on that a little bit before we start thinking, okay, where should we have OpenStreets, or what is it, when is it going to be, and all that kind of, those details will come through the process. But this will just give you a flavor of what they have been about. But bear in mind as well that each OpenStreets day that we have had in Cape Town has been very different, other than the ones that were repeats in the same location. But we've had a number of different locations, and each one has its own character. So please don't think that necessarily if there's an OpenStreets day here, that it will look exactly like what you're about to see on the videos.
This was the third OpenStreets event since 2013. The initiative seeks to uplift communities by bringing people from all walks of life together through rap, dance, singing and sports.
We speak about Cape Town being very divided, and we forget that we all like the same things. Deep inside we're all kids. We just want to play. And if we have that opportunity, we have that platform, it's very simple to come together as people. So this is the concept, close the street to cars, invite people, especially have something fun for people to do, and people will do that.
I think it's just great to have everybody be able to come out, chill on the streets. I think it gives a feeling of freedom immediately.
We can get together as a people, doesn't matter what it is. That's what life's about, moving forward and just forgetting the nonsense. It's the ideal world, I guess. That's what it should be. It's just a good example.
This is a nice day for the kids, They love, or they are very special for them. It's a very special day for them.
I hope it's not like a once-off thing.
Every month, I love every month. You must come.